Hey everyone, it's James here from Occult Audio. Today I'm really excited to walk you through our latest Kontakt instrument, the Saw. And depending on when you're watching this video at the moment, until November, you can download it for free. This library is all about delivering gritty, processed sounds that have been taken from a saw blade, and it's designed to really add tension and just a little bit of impact and textural flavor to your projects. What I'm going to do is kind of show you how it works, run through its main features and play a few sound examples for you. So let's jump right in. So when you load Saw, what you'll notice is it's a pretty clean and simple interface, we hope. On the left you've got the three sounds that are included, and each one features its own volume and panning level to give you kind of some freedom to be doing some things with. And then we've got kind of effects and other things on the right, which we'll come on to later. So three sounds really in this. You've got the edge, which is the original sound that we kind of came up with from this saw blade. We're working on a film. We want a particularly textural and gritty sound for a killer in this horror movie, and we came up with this as an idea, and it's a sound we went for purely because we're not really sure what's going on with this particular character at the beginning of the film, and it kind of develops through character arc. So we wanted something that we could change and get more extreme over time. Let's just have a listen to how the edge sounds straight out of the box. So you can hear it's quite cutting, quite a big range, loses a little bit of its power up the top, but it's still useful, and you'll kind of see why in a minute. So with each one of these, we've got the volume so you can control that, and it's also got its own pan setting, so you can pan that particular sound to wherever you want. Moving on to the next one then, Splinters is essentially that sound. It's had some aggressive sort of random panning put to it. It's also been passed through a wah pedal and a rotary pedal to just give it a bit more of a kind of changeable edge as a potential kind of lead. So if I turn the volume of edge down and we crank up Splinters, let's just have a little listen to that one. So you can hear a little bit different, a little bit more kind of movement and stuff going on, pushing its boundaries just a tiny bit more. And then the last one we've got is this one that we've called Dulled, where we've actually kind of pitched it down to give you kind of a bit more kind of versatility with what we've got here. And again, on that one, you can hear, because of what we've done to it, there's just that extra kind of little bit of kind of textural movement going on there. Now, as I said before, the reason we kind of designed it like this, and I like having sometimes instruments like this, is, you know, we've kind of come up with these three sounds for you, but what this gives you the freedom to do is kind of combine them and play around with them. So you could almost create some sort of almost sort of pad-like if we play around with these two a bit and just split them in the stereo field with the panning, and then maybe just a bit of edge to cut through at the top. And let's just play around for a sec. You can kind of combine them to get whatever effects you want, and, you know, push it to whatever extremes that you want. You know, make that one stand out more, maybe less bass heavy perhaps. you know, already we're kind of getting a different feel and a different kind of sound. So what we'll do, let's just get rid of those. Let's bring the original one back up and we'll have a look at some of the other features. So what we've tried to do is have some pretty sensible things, again, to help you really just shape the sound however you want it. And that's kind of combined in these effects over here on the interface. So impact is essentially the attack. So at the moment, you heard there, we're almost starting straight away. If I change it, you know, we've got less of that. We've got kind of a more gliding, if you like. Hammer is essentially a compressor, and what we're doing is applying that compression to the mix and kind of squishing it. So it's kind of useful, I think, when we get to things being a bit more extreme. It is very useful to be able to have that. Where these are textural, if you're really pushing them to the edge, there is quite a lot of variance sometimes. So to be able to apply some compression just to level things out a little bit is really useful. And if you don't want to go completely extreme, but you want some warmth and you want some saturation, you've got oxidize here, which just applies some tape saturation. So quite subtle, not too extreme yet, just the Forge kind of basic things that you've got there to manipulate some sound. Then we've got Abrasion, which is effectively a Scrape, which is a high pass filter, and Crush, which is a low pass filter. And I find these super useful. I think the one downside sometimes to having these kind of organic textural type instruments is sometimes there's a lot of noise in them, and we wanted to leave a lot of noise in this, but sometimes there's a lot of noise you don't necessarily want. It's going to interfere with frequencies of something else you're using, or just be in the way, or you want something cleaner. So being able to play around with filters helps deal with some of that. So for example, let's just imagine we're kind of using this dulled idea as kind of a pad. So we've got our pad kind of going, and what we can kind of do is just play around. That's okay, I quite like that. And create something, you know, it might feel squished, it might seem odd, but again, when you start doing it and you've got multiple different layers of all these ones together, really useful tool. And then we've got the resonator down the bottom. Resonator's got two principles. You've got Crucible, which is essentially a convolution reverb that everything's going to go through, and Drift, which is a delay. And I think when you start playing around with these, that's when stuff gets also a bit interesting. So if we kind of go back to our pad sound that we had, and if we start adding in some reverb, and then maybe a bit of delay as well. Yeah, it comes a point where it goes a bit too far, but once you find a kind of sweet spot. And you can play around with these. I mean, if you run, let's take delay off a little bit, just a little bit of that, and maybe a bit of tape saturation. And let's just take our original kind of sound. That's what's nice about this, is those kind of gritty noises then get kind of caught in those things. So when it loads, it loads completely dry, so you can play around with it. The other thing that you've noticed here is torsion, and this is quite cool. Torsion is essentially controlled by the mod wheel, and when you use that, everything gets quite extreme. So when you're doing that in this, you've got a lot more heavy saturation being applied, and you've also got a stereo modular that's kind of opening up where this sits and how wide it sits in the stereo field. So we're quite close in. If we start pushing it, then you can start doing some really extreme stuff. And I think what's nice about having that in the mod wheel is, again, you know, these textures, because they're looped, that you get a sense that they're evolving, but because they're then looped, you do lose some of that. So what you can do is kind of just ride that mod wheel to re-give that kind of spontaneity into that kind of textural feeling, and it gives you somewhere you can go, somewhere that can take you super, super extreme to really push it. So really, that's just Saw in a nutshell. It's kind of us. We made something. We had a specific need for it, and it's kind of us playing around, sharing it with you guys. And it's a flexible tool for adding intensity and atmosphere to your music. And like I said, at the moment, it's free to download. Head over to the website, grab it, and we'd love to see what you kind of create. And if you've used it already, thank you for downloading it. We really genuinely would love to see what you've created with it, hear what you think. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, head over to the website, sign up to the mailing list, because this is just the start of everything that we're working on. We've got a further 3 products that are coming towards the end of their testing phase. They're a lot bigger than this, and a lot more chaotic and a lot crazier than this. It's probably all I can say at the moment. Thanks so much, guys. Drop a like, drop a subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.